Episode 25, Evangelion, feels like someone desperately trying to convince you that Shinji's problems are deep and complicated. They aren't. Not at all. They desperately want you to think that all of these characters are going through some really heavy shit right now, that shit's about to get real, and that everything's going to shit. Everything is terrible. And nothing that has happened in the past several episodes has indicated that at all. Masato's breakdown in particular sticks out in my mind as just being completely ridiculous. It's some sort of she sees herself as being a slutty person. What? It was so stupid. And it was just not, again, it's one of those things where this entire segment, Masato, who again is not a protagonist, is just a supporting character. This entire segment was just why is this happening? There's no real reason for it. It's desperately trying to pretend this character has way more depth and and more interesting backstory than she actually does. She tries to tell us this shit about Kaji and how he reminded her of her father and how he banged her, how she banged it, how he let her bang her because of just. And then she had to leave because, who gives a shit? I didn't care back in episode 15, and I don't care now. It's just, so fucking stupid. And, I don't know, Asuka's clip is just stuff we've already known about. Again, this entire thing can... Okay, you can sum up, Shinji's and Asuka's problems really, really easily. Right, Shinji doesn't want to pilot the robot. That's why it's a meme. And Asuka has daddy issues. She has to be the best. She has to be the very best. No one ever was. That's all you really need to do. And you need to create interesting conflicts around those personality traits and around these characters, and an interesting narrative around that, and how other characters interact with these people, and just what kind of situations that would make. This is self-indulgent bullshit. Shinji and Asuka are not particularly deep and complex characters. Again, I've reasonably liked both in the past. Again, they're probably my favorite, my favorite characters. Asuka's probably my favorite character in this. Asuka is my favorite character in this. I just don't see this as being a particularly deep and complex. This entire setup, this entire thing with the auditorium and standing in a room, it really made me think of Killer 7, a work of art that far surpasses Evangelion in every single capacity you can imagine. Holy fucking shit. The fucking I have not played Killer 7 in quite some time. And just seeing that auditorium, seeing Evangelion try to pretend this is deep and complicated, I was just recalling Killer 7 and that bullshit you do when you go in that auditorium, and how you shoot the hanging body, and how shadows start coming after you, and how the Smiths one after the other fucking die, and how you finally have to take control of Garshin and use the golden gun to end it, and there's all this really interesting subtext going on there. There is none of that in Evangelion, not just in this episode. This entire series is just full of bullshit, attempts at trying to sound deep and complicated. From the very beginning, you had shit them trying to portray Shinji as the hedgehog's dilemma. He pushes away people so he won't get hurt. It's just it didn't work because they didn't showcase what him actually acting that way. Again, Shinji does not have the sort of environment that you would expect from a depressed person. Not expect a depressed person would actually be in. He doesn't push people away. When in this entire series has he ever pushed anyone away? He takes Asaka's abuse and never comments on it at all. He makes out with her at one point. He fucks it up, but whatever. It's just I don't fucking know, man. I'm pretty sure if all these people are depressed, they sure don't fucking show it throughout this entire series. And this episode really doesn't do a whole lot to changed my mind about that. It's just a bunch of like, another thing this reminded me of. I have not played Xenogears, but from what I understand, there is a very infamous moment. The entire second disc is basically the characters like sitting around in chairs talking about like shit that happens. Like that reminded me of like how that was described to me. Is this like this segment is just bullshit, just bullshit. Like not at all interesting, not no artistic merit at all. Just not visually interesting. Like the dialogue isn't interesting. Like they just repeat themselves a lot. It's just like, man, I just don't see it at all. Like again, this episode, I'm not sure what fans think of this episode. Like I think the animation, the lack of animation is like controversial, but whatever. Just, I don't fucking know if people try to pretend this is like deep or whatever. Like that this means something. Well, this is Evangelion. Of course they fucking do. I don't know what the conspiracy theories are because I've never read any like at all. But this entire thing was a complete mess. Fucking hate it. Well, not as much as I hated the last episode. There was so much in the last episode I fucking could not stand. But this episode just had like this monotonous, went on too long bullshit. Just, man. I'm on the last episode, guys. One more to go, and I can finally say I've sat through Evangelion. I've sat through the best anime ever made. I've sat through this incredibly insightful look at depression and the human condition and philosophy and just, giant robots. Man, this is ridiculous. I don't think there's been any giant robot piloting since, like, episode 20 or something like that. Like, shit. Oh, no, they fought Kizaru. It was lame, but they did it. Just, man, so fucking lame. Unbelievably lame. Like, this isn't a subversion of, like, giant robot tropes. And if they try, just, like, man, fucking terrible. Fucking terrible. I hate this show with a passion. I really do. I have no intention of ever watching this again. It's that thing with JoJo's again, where I just fucking cannot stand everything about this. It's just like, wow, man. This is like one of the most popular anime ever made. Really, this is like, we're getting to the climax, guys. We're getting to like the end, okay? We're getting to the end of the series now. So let's watch the final episode of Evangelion.